then we'll start the class. So I'm hoping she will join soon. Hi, Vanilla Salt. Thank you for joining. Hi, Omar Cree. Thank you so much for joining us. We're hoping to go live soon. So if you're on this call or you're watching the replay, thank you so much for joining us. This is Business Stories, where we bring up seasoned entrepreneurs to come online and share their business stories with us. Hi, Itoro. Good evening.
Hello. Hi. Hi, Grace.
Good evening. You look good. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hope you had a great day.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I did. It was a long word, but it was good. It was good.
Thank God. Yeah. Hi, Deepak Crash. Thank you for joining. So thank you everyone for joining. If you're joining from at the Baby Lounge page, thank you for joining us. If you're here at Grace at Tempkers, thank you for joining us. So today is the second edition. Hi, Chef Neka. Thank you for joining us. Today is the second edition of our business stories, where we bring up seasoned entrepreneurs to share their business stories with us. I mean, I see this as a great opportunity to learn one or two things you can apply to grow your own business. I mean, let's take a look at it. I know the Baby Lounge is currently running a series. I think started during the lockdown, something like grandma stories, where grandma and grandpa comes to share stories. You know, Chased by Moonlight or back in the days. After the story, they want to share what's the moral lesson, right? Okay, so that's what we're doing here, to have Baby Lounge share her business stories with us. And in fact, while she's sharing the story, by yourself, you start picking one or two lessons you can apply for your business now and in the future. I mean, I remember years ago, I lost my dad while I was 16, but a lot during our conversations, I learned a lot of things that till today, I mean, when I'm in a fix, some ideas of how to get myself out of a mess or how to, you know, be proactive and solve solutions. I've gleaned wisdom from those discussions we've had back in the days. So today we have Itoro Ugorji of At the Baby Lounge. She's a seasoned entrepreneur. I mean, if we are to name Nigerian entrepreneurs I admire and respect, she's one of them, because she's been able to grow a business in an industry, like the way she modeled her business. Like I'm like, okay, is this actually possible? You know, I'm like, this must be wisdom from above, because it's not normal. The kind of things, ideas she comes up with for her business is not normal. So welcome, Itoro. Thank you so much for being our guest today. Today we wanted to share your business stories with us. So we'll be looking at 5 cardinal points. How you started, the journey, of course the challenges, because we know there would be a few. How you overcame those challenges, the victories and the growth. So over to you, Itoro. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Absolute pleasure to be here. I actually didn't want to give an excuse for not being here, you know, because I'm actually not around. I was on a trip. Yes, so I was actually in transit. I think I just got in a few hours before this call.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my absolute pleasure. So, how did I get started? First, I think I absolutely loved working with children. It now was in what capacity, right? And it's interesting to note that I started the Baby Lounge before we had our own biological kids, right? And so a lot of people did not know we didn't have kids. As a matter of fact, the day that one of the parents found out that, you know, and we had just had our first child after 7 years, she actually busted into tears. She was like, "You don't say you were taking care of other people's kids and you didn't have." I mean, it was something that I had always wanted to do to make a difference, right? So I would say the journey has been in different seasons, right? In the course of this whole journey, I've gone back to paid employment twice. So it didn't work, and I went back to paid employment. So I started out in my house, a room in my house, and somehow we didn't have as many kids as we expected to have, right? And so at some point I went back to paid employment. Now, when we had our first child was when I also realized that there was a real need, because I wasn't ready to leave paid employment at that point. And I had to, because he was so precious, I had to look for a creche around, my office. And that was when I realized it was not so easy to find a creche. Now, we were not looking for something spectacular. We just wanted somewhere we were comfortable with, that had kind, knowledgeable adults who truly and genuinely cared for the children, right? And we eventually settled for somewhere, and then the challenge was now the working hours. I found myself having to run to get him and take him back to work because of the hours, right? Or my husband would go pick him up, right? Or we just end up paying the late pickup fee, right? And so I identified that that was a gap. Okay. Now, there was a time that I had to bring him to the office with me because my mom, who was with me at the time, had to go home, go back to her house to be with her husband for a few days. So it was really when I brought him to work, I realized that, oh my goodness, we can actually have, a corner in the office where, moms who have challenges could bring their kids. So the idea of the office creche came to me. Now, I didn't leave the bank till maybe a few years after, right? I attempted to set up for MTN at the time, and so what I proposed to them was the office creche model. It was just give me a space. We will recommend furniture and fittings. We will tell you how to use your space, and then your employees could use the space. Now, they said at the time, bring in your own furniture and bring in your own assets, but it fell flat on its face. It didn't work. This was about 15 years ago or so, right? That didn't work. During that time, I actually went back to school, did a master's in early childhood education, took a few certifications just to get myself prepared for this, right? And to position myself to attract the mothers that I truly wanted to serve, right? And so the first opportunity that came met me prepared. And the first opportunity was Total. So they wanted to set up their creche, and they were looking for service providers. And someone who, I had interacted with at MTN some years before recommended me. I was still in the bank. I was about to leave the bank at the time. So I went, interviewed for, the contract, and we got it. So our first major office creche was with that multinational, and we set it up and we ran it. Now, note that the office creche model does not require a huge overhead. So that's what I always say to people, when you get creative with your ideas, right? Or when you have an idea, most times people complain about funds and they say, the capital is not there. I always say, think of ways that you could use less, that the capital outlay could be less. I mean, nobody would ever have thought that, with a creche, because the first thing everybody thinks of, oh, I have to buy all this furniture, I have to buy all these toys, I have to buy all these resources. But with the office creche, you don't need to buy any of these things. They actually provide everything for you. What you need to do is bring on your expertise. So that's how we started. We started with the office creche. And so we grew. Now, it was a few years after that we set up one that was wholly owned by us.
Okay.
And so our business model is we use other people's monies to set up creches. So
Great.
we do not, if we have to replicate those facilities, right, we will be bankrupt because it is huge. It's a huge capital outlay.
Yes.
Okay. So what we do is we set up the practice for you. You own the assets, and the value we give you is we say to you that if you're not happy with our service, you can easily change providers. We are not going to be going away with assets. You don't have to start buying assets all over because the assets are owned by you.
Yeah.
So, and that's the model that we're pushing. No, so it is just much more than a service. It is a support system for parents.
I agree.
I tell you, so many parents have said to me, it is because you exist that I have kept a job.
Yeah.
I think that it is unfair to add to the guilt that a mom already feels, right? And leaving work or leaving her baby to go to work. I think it's unfair to make mothers look like they're choosing between their children and their careers, or they're choosing between their children and their visions. They can have both with the right support. So it's not everybody who has the luxury of a mother-in-law or a mom, right? So what I always say, whatever support system you have for childcare, as long as you're comfortable with it, please go for it. Some people are not comfortable with creches. Some people are not comfortable with nannies. Some people are not comfortable. Some are comfortable with nannies. And if it makes you comfortable, please, by all means, use what makes you comfortable. But don't make another mom feel like, she's irresponsible, loves her child because of the option that she chose for her child. Absolutely. So that's what, that's how we launched out, right, with the office creche. And then as we grew, what we always had at the back of our minds was, how do we support the parents that we serve? That's how most of our childcare solutions come about. When we think of how we support them. So the events and the pop-up creches, for example, we realize that a lot of women don't go for events.
That was one innovation that made me say, that innovation made me feel like, oh my God, baby lounge. Like, it was so out of the world. I mean, as at that time, I've had to cancel so many events because, I mean, I knew that if I go into that event with my baby, it's either my baby will embarrass me by crying, or I'll be running up and down because I want to find a space to feed her or change her diapers. So that means I'm not going to concentrate at the event. And in the end, what's the essence of going? But when I heard you come up with them, like, oh my God, people are thinking, how to wake up my brain. People are thinking. And that was, for me, that was highly, highly innovative. And I'm sure when you came up with that, a lot of people embraced it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the model is, we don't have the parents paying for that childcare arrangement. It's the organizer of the events that we work with. So if you want to drive traffic or drive attendance to your event, and you also want to look responsible and look support and come across as supporting families.
Yes.
It's in fact, it's a no-brainer. It's actually, a low-hanging fruit. So we work with the event owners or the organizers of that particular event to say to them, you have a number of moms who are part of your attendees, and you want them to come for this event and focus on the event.
Yes.
So we set up, so they can get the best and get the value out of that particular event. So we set up, a creche where the parents just drop off the children. They are tagged in. So, the security checks are done. We have professional care givers come and engage the children in age-appropriate activities. We have different corners. So it's a full-blown creche. It's just mobile. So you have the sleeping corners for toddlers and the babies. You have a nursing corner for mom who wants to breastfeed. You have a changing diaper change corner. You have the activities, the play and activities, age-appropriate play and learning activities. So it's the children are just covered for the entire duration of that event. So that's one of the care solutions. Now, you know, like I said, what we always think about is solution.
Yeah.
And then the service now comes after we think about the solution. So we also have, you know, another service called the hotel babysitting. So you have a number of parents who come in from out of town, right?
Yeah.
And they stay in hotels for work. Okay, so what we basically do is just send care assistants to your hotel room to babysit for you. So that's an hourly and a daily plan. So you think for a couple of days, so that works. Okay, so because you have parents with young children who are coming from out of town for meeting, yes, and are not very familiar with the town, right? And so that has, you know, has them covered.
Wow.
Okay. And then we have what we call the in-home child minding. So the in-home child minding is a short-term childcare arrangement. It's hourly, daily, weekly sometimes. So you have an emergency, okay? Your house help runs out on you. You typically don't keep. So if you typically do not have a nanny arrangement, right? Or your nanny runs up on you, or you just need childcare for just a couple of hours, a couple of days, that's the solution for you. It's in the comfort and familiar environment of your home. So we send a trained childcare provider to your home who works with you on, you know, with your child's schedule. So once you book that service, right, we schedule someone who, and then we send you a pass code that person also has, right, upon a resumption in at your home. Okay, so you have the child caregiver take care of the child in line with, you know, the child's care plan, right? At the end of each of those duties, you're given a report. So it's a snapshot of the child's day, basically, or how that child spends that day. It's the kind of report we also give in our in-creche, right? Okay. So it's the time of arrival of the staff or the drop-off time for the child, you know, feeding routines, what that child ate, what time that child ate, you know, diaper changes for the babies, potty learning for the toddlers, toilet provision for older kids. And we also have learning activities, you know, learning and play activities, age-appropriate learning and play activities. So all of that is captured. So you basically know how your child spends his or her day. Yes. Now we recently added temperature checks. Okay. Right. And yes, pickle. So that's for in-home child minding. We had the virtual play dates during the pandemic, and even I will tell you that even those virtual play dates are still relevant even till now. So the virtual play dates is just basically having, you know, a session with the younger children on Zoom. Okay. Right. What we did differently was to design those learning and play sessions in pockets of 30 minutes, okay, taking into consideration the attention span of the child. Those young children cannot sit longer than 30 minutes, right? And so it was, if these children can sit through their favorite cartoons, right? They can sit through an interesting content that also, you know, moves them along their learning, growth, and development. Yeah. So we said to parents, you can actually even connect it to your smart TV. So it's on the larger screen. So the children see it on the large screen, and we engage.
More interesting, them. Yeah.
30 minutes. So you can pick, 4 sessions of 30 minutes and, spread it across your day, depending on that child's schedule. So that was the play dates. So we had the virtual play dates, and it's usually in a group with other kids. We have the virtual childminder, which is the one-on-one, sort of like the child's lesson teacher. Then we had Tales by Grandma. So it was a way, it was a way of reconnecting young children back to our culture through folk tales. So our, folk tales, the favorite folk tales that the children were fast losing, the cultural elements, language, we brought that in. And then, we gave it a twist. We started it out with celebrity grandparents. So we had a number of, mostly drawn from the Nollywood, right? Yeah. Who actually, sat through and engaged the children. It was such a beautiful experience. So we went ahead, and structured Tales by Grandma, brought out another product from Tales by Grandma called the Tales by Grandma, the video series. That you will see in a few months. So what that is basically the recorded version.
Yes.
Right? So in addition to the children listening to a beautiful folk tale, they also learn to read. So what we did was we would have the transcription running on the screen. And then we also went ahead to do beautiful illustrations, so that pictures. So as the stories are being told, if you talk about the tortoise running after the hare, you see a tortoise and the hare. So it's a whole lot more engaging.
Oh my God.
So this is like a Netflix for children, African children.
Yeah.
So yes.
And highly educative. I can already picturing what it feels like and looks like. And I want to be a child again. Oh my God, this is it's been an interesting ride listening to your business story. And the part of your story I love is the innovation. The innovation has been one thing that has wowed me about your business model and who you are. But let's talk about the challenges. We know there were a few of them. So what challenges were they? How were you able to overcome them? I'm sure that people on this live session and those who will watch the replay later who are interested in running a child-minding business, and you've been doing this for years. So this is our own tales by an older business, owner. So tell us, what were the challenges and how were you able to surmount them?
So I'm sure you know that this was also a saturated market. There's hardly any markets really.
There's
hardly any market that is not saturated.
Yeah.
So going into a saturated market is no longer an excuse.
Yes.
Right. And I think that people have done it over and over again. You need to there are opportunities to innovate even in saturated market. That's actually the only way that you can survive in a saturated market. Innovation, and innovation does not necessarily mean a brand new novel idea, right? It may be an existing idea that you just modify. Okay, most times, like I say, you can't reinvent the wheel, but you can add a spoke or two.
Of course.
That's a new product.
That's a new product, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the challenges was getting into a saturated market and differentiating oneself. So because I'm sure you know that there are crashes everywhere, and there would continue to be more crashes.
Of course.
And from the onset, we had determined that we were going to play in the early years space. So ours is not a plan to become a full-fledged school. Is the child care space. That is what where we intend to remain, and we would continue to innovate within that space, right? So there was also the challenge of funding, like most people have, right? which was one of the things that forced us to innovate. Now,
Yes.
because we knew that we didn't have those funds available, we had to think of ways to even get started and start generating income with the funds that we had. And so most of the services that did not require those huge overheads, okay, we started putting out there. Okay, so a an event crash, for example, right? You probably just need a couple of toys and resources, to set up. Okay, and then people say that, oh, how do I get started? Nobody knows me. You need to start from somewhere. On Instagram, we started with 0 followers. I think consistency is probably the hardest thing for people to do. But you see, it can never grow old. It's about being consistent. It is about being consistent. So whether there is no one cheering you on, okay, or you have some really dark and low days, you resolve to just keep going because there are people still watching you. So it is really about being consistent, just putting in the work and you keep going. I can't even begin to tell you the number of places that we have had our names mentioned, okay, places that we would never have dreamt of being, and the kind of corporates that we have had the privilege of working with and are still working with, right? Just because we chose to take that one step. And so I say it is hard. That the fact that the terrain is hard does not mean you should throw in the towel. So you throw in the towel sometimes, throw it in, pick it up again, wipe your face and keep going.
True.
So the major issues have been the funding, right, and innovating. And we have chosen to keep looking at ways, like, I say to people, honestly, if there is a way to run a creche remotely, I would do it. So the in-home child minding, for example, you don't need to have a creche to provide that service. There are so many moms, but guess what the currency is in that service is trust.
Yes.
We run a service of trust. You need to build that trust, and building that trust comes over a period of time.
Yes.
So you don't need furniture and fittings to provide that service.
That's it.
What you need is a name and a brand. And the only way to build a name and a brand is to put in the work, be consistent, and begin to build a reputation. And building a reputation takes time.
True. Okay, so at what point in your business journey did you realize it was time for growth? It was time to expand. I mean, interacting with lots of business owners, growth comes in two major ways. And the first, I think, happens with our everyday life, not just business, even our personality, could be career, where you want, let's say you are at a point and you hope you're at the point A and you hope to be at the point D, and you keep working on yourself gradually. Sometimes without even noticing, unconsciously, you realize that, oh, I'm no longer at A. I'm now at C. I'm not yet at D, but I'm no longer where I used to be. So let's talk about growth. For lots of business owners, they tell you, oh, our growth, was a step-by-step process. We knew just when was right time, when the growth was right, the right time to expand and all of that. Some said, oh, we didn't realize we were growing. We just woke up one day, looked back and realized that we had become better. So let's talk about growth, because one thing that also kills a business fast is forceful growth. Forceful growth, maybe when you probably think it is time to make an expansion investment, or grow the business to a certain level more than where you are, which also requires money, time, human capital, XYZ. And many a times, if not done properly, you end up crashing what you have built. So how were you able to manage growth?
So let me take growth from two perspectives, right? And I think one affects the other. So when you say growth, one immediately first thinks about your growth as an individual, and this would also have something to do with your knowledge base, because you now have a market that is really sophisticated, right, and knows what they want. You also have to ask yourself the kind of audience that you intend to attract, right? And the audience that you intend to attract will determine your level of personal growth. And when I say personal growth, because I tell you the truth, there's a certain niche, market niche, that we've positioned ourselves to attract, right? And for us to be able to attract that particular niche, we have to come across as knowledgeable. And when I say knowledgeable in this space of childcare development, okay, child development, early years learnings, it is the parents who come to you want to be certain that they are entrusting their children in the hands of a professional who is well versed in these areas. Child safety, it's all around child development. And for you to be able to be, a knowledgeable professional, you have to have invested in your growth and in the growth of the team that you have. Okay, and this comes with trainings. So a lot of people, either do not put that premium on trainings and think that they would attract the market that they're looking to pay for the kind of service that they want to provide. Okay, so that's an aspect of growth that's often been ignored, because when people talk about growth, they think of business expansion, which is a good thing. But you see, your personal growth and development also is a factor, something that affects your business, expansion and development too. Now, I'm not sure that there is any business owner who doesn't want to scale, and knowing when to scale is very, very important. Now, it is with scale. When you scale, with scale comes money, more money. The business that we do is a numbers game. The more children that we cater to, right, more money for us, absolutely. But then, are you ready? Do you have what it takes? Okay, are you the capacity that you are looking at? Do you have what it takes? Do you have what it takes to cater to that particular capacity? If we're talking about catering to 100 kids, for example, right? Do we have the manpower? Do we have the manpower that is trained to cater to those 100 kids? So that is what you need to be intentional, about planning your growth. So that is it, about growth. It is not something that you wake up to and decide that you're going to, and then you have to prepare for growth. You truly have to prepare for growth, because if you're not prepared for the growth that you're looking for, I mean, it will be better not to even. You would crash. You would absolutely crash. absolutely crashed.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
The biggest factor with scaling a business and growing is human capital. If you do not have competent people, because I mean, even as the visionary, you as a visionary you can't grow that business by yourself. You need a capable team. And with a business as sensitive as ours, and in an environment where we do not have social security systems in place, how do I know that I'm not hiring a pedophile?
Yeah.
So it becomes even more challenging for our own kind of business. Yeah. So when you talk about growth, there's so many factors that you need to consider. So many factors that you need to consider. So you need to be sure that you're ready for that growth.
Oh my God, Itoro, thank you so much for this, for sharing your business story. Thank you for making our time to be here. I mean, I've been writing. I'm sure you've seen me looking down several times. Yes, that's because I'm writing. I have learned a lot from you over time, and today gave me an opportunity to actually hear your story and learn a lot more. And I know somebody's saying interesting. Yes, please. We'll take a few questions, maybe about one or two before we call it a day, because our guest speaker needs to rest, please. I don't want anybody to stress her for me at all. Yeah. So I know there are a lot of people here who are probably in the child minding business or looking forward to having a child minding business in the near future. So do you have anything around something that can help, I don't say the upcoming generation, but people who are interested in having a child-minding business?
The first thing I would say, and that's what a lot of people shy away from, and it's very strange, is, I don't know why people think that you can just get off the streets and start taking care of it. Yes, no, it's not fair on these young children. You need to be trained. You need to invest in some training. It's not enough. It's great to be passionate about working with kids, but passion can only take you thus far. You need to acquire some competences. And in various, childcare is so broad. There's the area of nutrition. There is health and safety.
Yeah.
There is learning. There is play. There is development. In the course of what we do, right? And one of the reports that we give to parents is what we call the milestone checklist. Yeah. The milestone checklist is basically a rundown of all that the child should have attained at a particular age. So you have milestone checklists for major ages. You have for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, 12 months, 36 months, right? And at all of these age milestones, there are 7 things that these children should have achieved in different areas, okay? Cognitive, social. And so we highlight those milestones and we tick them off, right? That a child has not attained a particular milestone does not mean that it's a red flag. It just means that, parents, we should keep an eye on it, right? Because that's how you identify developmental delays. So if you're not trained in this area, how would you be able to identify when there's a developmental delay? Yeah. And for children that age, early intervention is very key. Better. So the first thing I say to people who want to get trained. Go either for certifications or get courses. Get started with one training or the other in that space. It positions you better.
Okay. Thank you so much at the Baby Lounge. If you're here and you have questions, please drop your questions, or I'll be posting this video so you can drop your questions and tag at Baby Lounge. I know she'll be gracious to respond to your questions. And I know you have a training on how to start up a child-minding business or a crash. I know it's just something like that.
Yes, because we had a lot of a lot of inquiries, in that regard. Yes. So we have two forms of training. So there's one that is a one-on-one with me. That's ask for any question you have with regards to childcare. And it turns out to be a really robust conversation. Okay, so it's 2 hours on Zoom, right? You just book for that call. Then we now have about 50 courses, childcare courses. Ooh. This we did in collaboration with the Childcare Lounge. It's the Childcare Training Institute in Pennsylvania. Oh. So there are 50 courses to choose from, right? There are courses on potty training. There are courses on autism. There are courses on toddler and infant care. So, and the content is amazing. There are certificate courses, so you can actually get a certificate at the end. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're on this call, you're interested in child minding business, your sister, cousin, friend, neighbor, family friend is interested in this, I'm sure from our conversation, you've gotten to understand that child mining is very serious business. I mean, these days with all of the things happening in the world, people are careful and they want some level of trust in your experience and competence when they're handing over their child to you. So you would need some level of training to mind children and also to turn that into a business and grow it. I mean, it's one thing to develop a skill, right? And make money out of that skill. It's another thing entirely to make and grow a business out of that particular skill. So thank you so much. Dacia James, yes, she said there are courses you can take. So you can click the link in her bio or send her a DM at the Baby Lounge, and she'll be able to respond to your questions concerning the courses you're interested in and maybe have a one-on-one session with her. But trust me, it's a session that you would not regret. Like, you would look back at your journey and say, yes, this one-on-one session was able to help me gain clarity, find my footing, answer my questions, and give me the right motivation and push to move to the next level. Thank you so much, Itoro. We appreciate you for being here today. We don't take your presence for granted. I know we learned a lot, and I know lots of questions will come in later from those online and those that will be watching, the replay later. So this brings us to the end of the second edition.
The courses are actually for parents too.
Okay, for parents too.
Yeah, anybody who works closely with children. Actually. Courses are extremely beneficial. So we've had a number of parents, yes, who take those courses because they just want to be more knowledgeable,
involved,
with caring or working with their children.
Great. So parents on this call, I can see a couple of you. I don't want to call your names. Please go to the Baby Lounge, send her a DM, click the link in her bio, make your inquiries, ask your questions. Trust me, I mean, when it comes to taking care of children, you don't want to guess. You want to be sure that you understand and you are doing the right thing. Thank you so much, Itoro, for being here. So we come to the end of the second edition of the Business Stories, and today we had the Baby Lounge with us. And next week and in weeks to come, we'll have more entrepreneurs come on live to share their business stories with us. We'll learn from them and then we'll pick lessons and then impact our business with it. So we appreciate you for being here, Itoro. Thank you so much, and bye for now. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.